This past weekend there were a bunch of Pokemon VGC tournaments online, and a lot of them had a bunch of entrants, and I was able to compete in one of them on Friday. So today I'm going to be talking about my tournament run and how I did with my team. And overall this was a really smooth event. It had 8 different rounds, and you had to basically finish 6 and 2 to advance into the top cut, which was the final round. There was also a prize pool of $250, and like I said, this one right here that I competed in did have over 200 entrants. So let's go ahead and talk about my tournament run. Like I said, I did do pretty well at this tournament. I did not make top cut. I was very close. I did start off to a 4-0 start, and I did end up finishing 5-3, so I did lose 3 of my last 4 games, which was very unfortunate. But as you can see, overall I did finish in 35th place out of 200 entries. So I'm pretty happy with that overall, considering this was my first tournament that I've done in a very long time. Last Pokemon VGC tournament I've done has probably been since Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. So it's been years. It's definitely been years. And like I said, I did start off 4-0 with this tournament. I lost my 5th round, I won the 6th round, and then I lost 7th and I lost the 8th round. So I'm gonna be quickly talking about all my different rounds and how they went. And this right here is my team: Amoonguss, Kingambit, Torkoal, Dragonite, Gothitelle, and Garganacl. In my previous video I did kind of talk about the breakdown of the team, why I chose what I did for things, and I kind of went into more detail about what my team is. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you want to get kind of a more of an overview of my team and kind of what my team building process was. But the quick recap of my team is that it is a Trick Room team, but I do have things that allow me to kind of function outside of Trick Room. For example, Dragonite, having that extreme speed is really nice. Gothitelle is my Trick Room setter. The Shadow Tag is very helpful with certain matchups, so it's overall like a really good team that I'm happy with. So let's go ahead and talk about my round 1 matchup versus MJ's Paradise. This is definitely one where Wide Guard saved me, and that is for sure. So going into this one, I figured that he would bring the Murkrow. I was also kind of scared of that Garchomp and the Armor Rouge. I figured that Wide Guard would be really good to have, so I definitely knew I had to bring Garganacl. And I wasn't sure if he was going to start off with, Garchomp, Murkrow, just try to go for Earthquakes and things like that, so I definitely wanted to lead with Garganacl just so I have Wide Guard as an option. And I also decided to lead with Dragonite, so I have that extreme speed. That way, if he does lead with Murkrow, I can pretty much kill it. One thing I did forget to mention about this tournament is that it was open team sheets, which was actually a really nice thing. So we were able to view the entire team of the other person before the match started. We got to see ability, Terra typing, items, and all the moves. So my opponent decided to lead with Garchomp and Maushold, and since we were able to see the team sheets, I knew that Maushold did not have a Focus Sash, and they decided to start off by double protecting, which was fine. One other thing to note that I did notice right away was that Garchomp only had Earthquake and Rock Slide as his attacking moves, which meant that Wide Guard completely shut that thing down. And since I knew that, I went ahead and decided to extreme speed the Maushold. I knew for sure it would kill it. If it didn't kill it for any reason, if he switched out or something like that, I would just get massive damage off. And then my opponent would go on to send in Hydreigon, and I basically knew he was just going to start going for Earthquakes or Rock Slides or something like that, so that's when I started to use Wide Guard. So basically all I had to do was spam Wide Guard while I'm using extreme speed with Dragonite until it dies, just to get off massive damage, and his Garchomp is basically useless against me. And throughout this process, I did do a lot of misplays just because, like I said, it's been a while since I've done VGC, so there were some things that I kind of messed up on. I didn't realize that you couldn't like Wide Guard and then protect. I didn't realize that it would fail, so I did mess up there. And I also forgot to really study that team sheet and see that Armor Rouge had safety goggles, so later on when I send in my Amoonguss and I try to Spore it, it just doesn't work. But despite all of that, I was able to slowly chip away health and spam Wide Guard to where that Garchomp was on the field the entire match and did absolutely nothing to me. And overall with this match, I had a lot of scares, honestly. Like I said, I did have some misplays, which almost cost me the game, but overall, I feel like my team kind of just shut this team down. The Maushold, and this is the Pokemon that I've kind of criticized in the past, I feel like Maushold isn't the best Pokemon. Without a Focus Sash, that thing is dead like instantly, especially with Extreme Speed Dragonite, so it's not really a problem for me. Usually only when it's Focus Sash is kind of a problem for me, but a lot of times teams will have Murkrow and Maushold, so then they'll have like the Murkrow holding Focus Sash, so it kind of just depends, but I feel like it's not a great Pokemon. Moving on to round 2, I went up against Jack VGC, and they had a very scary team, not gonna lie. I did see the Goldango right away. Pretty much when I see Goldango, I always bring Garganacl for Wide Guard, and I also bring my Kingambit to kind of just shut it down. I feel like Kingambit's a pretty good counter to Goldango overall. I decided to leave with Garganacl for the Wide Guard, and also the Gothitelle to kind of trap whatever he does at the beginning. And Jack ended up leading with Gallade and Murkrow. So to start off, he set up the Tailwind, and I just kind of went for that early chip damage to kind of slowly eat away at their health. The big thing about this team is when I do lead with Gothitelle, and if you lead with something that's kind of like bad against what I lead with, you're kind of just stuck, which is really nice. And I knew this thing had Taunt, and I don't know why I just kind of forgot about it, so I decided to try to go for Trick Room, and he taunted me, so it failed. But eventually I was able to do enough chip damage to where both of his Pokemon fainted. The very next turn he knocked out both of my Pokemon, so we were each down to our last 2. And with the end of this match, I really had some luck on my side. I was able to tank a lot of hits. Torkoal was super tanky against these last 2 Pokemon, so I'm very grateful for that. I also kind of had a misplay a little bit. I kind of tried to chip away with Sucker Punch and live as long as I could. The thing that really saved me though is that I dodged a Heat Wave with King Kingambit that allowed me to live for an extra turn, and I was able to eventually knock out both his Pokemon. So I felt pretty good about this game overall. I had a really strong lead. I was able to get that 4-2 advantage at the start, but then once again, I did have some misplays, which almost cost me the game, but I was able to bounce back with some luck on my side. All right, let's move on to our round 3 matchup, and at this point in the tournament, I was feeling pretty good, starting off 2-0, feeling great, and then I see that I'm up against an Indeedee, and this is a Pokemon that I've kind of struggled with against in the past. Psychic Surge, I feel like kind of shuts me down, and I really don't like it at all, so it was kind of scary seeing that. Another thing I struggle with a lot is Armarouge with Flash Fire, and then it has the Terra Grass typing, because I really have nothing to kind of counter that, and I saw this team had other threats like Murkrow, Sylveon, things like that too, so it was kind of a scary start. My opponent decided to lead with Meowscarda and Indeedee, which I was kind of afraid of. I did lead with Garganacl and Gothitelle, once again, just in case, the spread moves. I did see that Armarouge had a lot of spread moves. I did see that Sylveon did as well, so that's why I kind of led with Garganacl, and then of course the Gothitelle to try to get Trick Room up. I had a feeling that Meowscarda was going to use U-turn, so I did protect with Gothitelle, and for whatever reason I decided to go for Body Press because I completely forgot about Meowscarda's ability, which changes its typing to Bug type because of U-turn, so I really kind of had a misplay there, but I did get some decent damage off on it. And the next turn I knew it was going to U-turn again because it was Choice Banded, so I did switch into Dragonite to take a little bit less damage, and I just got some damage off onto the Armarouge, and the rest of the match was full of us switching out Pokemon, things like that, and Indeedee using Follow Me. I was able to kind of knock it out though, and barely live with my Dragonite at some points. So I was able to get a lot of good damage off and kind of just counter his team overall. And similar to my round 1 matchup, the thing that saved me in this one was once again Wide Guard, and Extreme Speed also saved me. I was able to just kind of spam Wide Guard, which completely shut down Armarouge because he only had spread moves, so he wasn't able to do anything with that at all. And then I did have Extreme Speed to just do lots of damage and have that priority move to just knock things out. And that's something I really love about my team, is the fact that I have certain moves that will shut down Pokemon, and I always have that option of Extreme Speed, which was pretty good against most Pokemon, to be honest. At this point in the tournament, this was definitely the scariest team that I came across. Like, it had Pokemon that I was really kind of afraid of. Indeedee and Armarouge are the big ones that I feel like my team kind of fails against. So I was glad I was able to pull out a win here. And now we get to my round 4 matchup. At this point, I'm 3-0, still feeling great. I do see this team, and I feel pretty good about it, honestly. Looking at this team, he has the Mousehole, which, like I said, I'm not too afraid of. And once again, it does not have Focus Sash, so no Dragonite Extreme Speed will just one-shot it right away. I do see that he has the Meowscarda with Focus Sash, and I feel like a lot of times when people run this Pokemon, they always lead with it. So I kind of anticipated that, which is why I decided to start off with Dragonite and Gothitelle. And basically what that lead does for me is if you don't protect turn 1, you can't switch out. I already know that. So if I fake out an Extreme Speed, you're just basically dead. And unfortunately for me, he decided to lead with Meowscarda and Kingambit and protected with both of them, so I wasn't able to do that. The next turn, I was able to get some really good damage off on the Meowscarda before it switched out, and he did actually kill my Gothitelle, unfortunately, but he double targeted it, so it was fine. I decided to switch in the Torkoal, and he basically tries to attack it. He uses Terra Blast, he uses Struggle Bug, all that kind of stuff. Does like no damage because the sun is up, so I was able to kind of return that damage and do a lot of damage to him. And the next turn, I was able to get some really good damage off again with Dragonite. He did kill the Torkoal. My Dragonite barely clutched it out and lived, which allowed me to sweep the rest of his team with Extreme Speed and Sucker Punch. And this is what I'm talking about where I say Indeedee shuts me down, because I do rely on a lot of these priority moves, so when Psychic Surge is up, it kind of just shuts down my team entirely. I feel like his team here was very frail. He had a lot of Pokemon that died pretty early, so having those priority moves really just allowed me to kill things right away. And at this point, I'm feeling really good. I'm 4-0. I know I have to lose at some point, and unfortunately, it was going to be in this 5th round against Shortbread Dread. This team just shut me down entirely. He's got the Cerulege, the Flash Fire, Grass Terra typing, which I was scared of right away. I already knew that. He's got the Grimmsnarl, which is annoying because of all the screens that it has. The Garganacl with Recover on it and Iron Defense, so I knew this thing was going to be tanky, very, very tanky. And of course, he got the Rotom Wash with that little burn right there, the Will-O-Wisp, so that's another thing I was kind of afraid of. And it was at this moment that I realized I have like no special attackers besides Torkoal, but when he's running Cerulege, it's kind of hard to bring Torkoal because he can just switch in Flash Fire and I'm dead. So I decided to lead with Dragonite and Gothitelle once again. I was kind of hoping he would lead with Grimmsnarl so I could just knock it out right away. Instead, he decided to lead with Rotom and Cerulege, which was really bad for me, honestly. And to start off, it's the double protects. The next turn, it was my first big mistake. I decided to switch in the Garganacl instead of having the Dragonite out because I felt like he was going to burn it. And I protected with Gothitelle because I thought he was going to try to attack that as well. And unfortunately for me, he decided to use Nasty Plot. The next turn, he double targets my Gothitelle since I did protect, which means I can't protect again, most likely. So he decides to Shadow Sneak, which doesn't pop my Citrus Berry, and then he Thunderbolts and gets a crit, and I'm dead. And at that point, he just Will-O-Wisps my Dragonite. He sets up the screens, and I can do no damage. that Gargonackle is setting up, there is absolutely no way that I can kill it, and it is GG. So my biggest mistake with this match, the reason why I lost, is because I did kind of switch out the turn that he used Nasty Plot. I protected with my Gothitelle, which left it vulnerable next turn. So that was overall my biggest mistake. Had I done something different there, it might have turned around. Round 6, we see our first Dondozo Tatsugiri team, and I was able to bounce back and get a win this round versus Ike. The team that they had, I wasn't too afraid of, honestly. You know, Goldango, I feel like I have some pretty good counters for it. Dondozo, I feel like that strategy doesn't work too well against Gothitelle. And he does have the Arcanine, which is great for my King Gambit. So, you know, I wasn't too afraid of this team. I also noticed that he had a Choice Banded Pokemon and a Choice Scarf Pokemon, so that was actually really nice for me. And I decided to lead with Gothitelle and King Gambit just in case he started with Arcanine. He ended up starting with Goldango and Meowscarada, which was okay for me. It wasn't too bad. Instead of going for Sucker Punch, I did go for my other Dark-type move against Goldango, just because I did notice that it had Trick, so I was kind of afraid that he would try to use Trick on the Gothitelle. So I did get some decent damage off because he actually did switch to Dondozo instead of doing anything with it, so that was kind of nice. At this point, I decided to switch into Gargonackle and Sucker Punch the Dondozo, tank all the damage that he does to me, and I also got some good damage off on the Whale. And the next turn, I decided to use Body Press on the Meowscarada. I barely lived with like 3 HP, so I definitely clutched it out there, and I also did switch into Gothitelle. And the next turn, I go for a Wide Guard. I don't really know why, because I don't know what I was thinking. He decided to go for Shadow Ball. I was able to tank it and eventually kill the Dondozo. And for whatever reason, he didn't even try to really go for the Dondozo Tatsugiri strategy. I wasn't really sure about that. He kind of just let it die. This whole time I was thinking he would switch in Tatsugiri, but he never actually did. So by the time Tatsugiri came out, it was kind of just GG's at that point. He kept going for Muddy Water, which was something really nice for me because I was able to switch into King Gambit, get my Defiant boost, and with, you know, Torkoal and Sucker Punch, it was GG's. And overall, this felt like a really good win. I had a lot of smart plays here. I felt like, you know, a lot of things that he could have done differently, I feel like, as well, that could have kind of changed the outcome of the game. But overall, I was able to get some good predictions, get some good KOs, and live a lot of really close attacks, you know, by 3 HP. And this is pretty much where it goes downhill. This is round 7. I know I have to win one of my last 2 games to make it out to top cut. Going against this team, I felt pretty good looking at the team. The only thing I was a little afraid of was that Tyranitar, just because I hadn't seen those too often. Everything else I had, you know, pretty good experience against. I see a lot of Meowscardas in this tournament, a lot of Murkrows, and a lot of Garchomps. Those are kind of the 3 most common ones that I saw. He decided to lead with T-Tar and Murkrow, and I decided to lead with King Gambit and Gargonackle. Once again, just kind of for that wide guard, just in case I need to use it. He's got a lot of spread moves. He's got Snarl, he's got Earthquake, you know, different things like that, make it rain. So I definitely wanted to bring that. And it kind of just goes downhill from turn 1. He kind of switched out to the Goldango, and he decided to use Dragon Dance with his Tyranitar, and that's kind of where it was GG's, honestly. I just made a lot of misplays in this match. You know, I tried to go for Sucker Punch, it didn't kill, which was unfortunate. You know, I have the Gothitelle, and he just basically one-shots it. So overall, like, just letting that T-Tar kind of set up is what killed my team here. And by the end of the match, all he had to do was, you know, use Rock Slide, and it was basically over. So for that round, I was just simply outplayed. I feel like that was the first loss that I had in this tournament where, like, I just really felt like I got completely outplayed. And the final round was against Arcane VGC. Once again, I had to win this to make it out to top cut, and unfortunately, I did not win it. Kind of a unique team here. First Hariyama that I've seen all tournament. He also had a Cerulege, which I felt like was kind of uncommon. I think we only saw one earlier. It's mostly Armarouge that we've been seeing, but this was a Cerulege, and once again, I feel like my team kind of struggles with that. And of course, he's also got the Murkrow. To start off, he leads with Cerulege and Hariyama, and I decided to lead with Amoonguss and Dragonite. At this point, I was like, you know what? I don't really use Amoonguss too much, so I'm going to decide to lead with it. It's probably going to be pretty helpful. You know, he does have Fake Out, but he's going to take a little bit of damage from that Rocky Helmet, so maybe it'll be good. And I just made some, like, key mistakes in this matchup. You know, I do have the Terra Water typing on Amoonguss, which I really could have done first turn, which would have allowed me to live the Fake Out onto me with the Bitter Blade. I would have lived that. Unfortunately, I just decided not to Terra type. I didn't protect. I didn't do anything. So I decided to, you know, just take that and die for it. I end up killing the Cerulege with Dragon Claw, which was really nice. And then he does have the Hydreigon, which basically one-shots my Dragonite, which was insane, but I shouldn't be surprised, I guess. I did go for Body Press with my Gargonackle onto his Hydreigon, and he barely lived it, which was very unfortunate. And later on in the match, he makes some key switches, and, you know, go for Sucker Punch, doesn't kill. Once again, he kind of just barely lives, and I end up losing the game. So this last round, I did make some key mistakes, but I also had some rolls that kind of just didn't go my way. There were a few times where he, you know, he barely lived. Kind of what was happening to me earlier in the tournament, kind of just returned the favor to me at this part of the tournament. And so that meant that Arcane got to advance into the top cut while I lost, and I was out at 5-3. And that was pretty much it for the tournament. Like I said, I was out at 35th place. Very unfortunate ending to such a great start, you know, starting off 4-0, finishing 5-3, so that kind of sucked. But I definitely feel pretty good about the team. Like I said, there were some mistakes. There are a couple things I need to tweak a little bit with my team, I feel like, because I do struggle against Cerulege with Flash Fire and the Terra Grass typing. That's one thing I definitely struggle with. Goldango, I feel like I have some good counters for, but at the same time, like, each Goldango is different, so it kind of is tough to deal with. You know, some of them run Steel Beam, which would one-shot my Garganacl. Other ones will just spam, you know, make it rain. So I kind of need to figure out, like, a better solution to that as well. I also feel like Amoonguss doesn't fit great on my team. It's definitely a good Pokemon to have, but I see myself not using it a whole lot. I think that tournament I used it twice. And the second time I used it, like, it just died right away. I didn't use it correctly, you know. So I need to kind of figure out what to do with that slot, if I should keep it or maybe change it up and add a different Pokemon. And then another key takeaway is that when I do get Trick Room up against a fast team, like, I pretty much win all the time. I feel like if I can get Trick Room up and get that Torkoal out there, it just kind of sweeps. So I need to, like, start going for Trick Room more, because a lot of times I kind of have Trick Room as an option, but I don't really go for it. So I need to find a better way to get that out there. The team that won this entire tournament was actually a snow team, which is really cool to see, because as you can see on the list here, there's no snow teams except for the one up here. So that's actually really cool to see. Maybe I'll kind of do a video analyzing that team, testing it out in rentals, that kind of stuff. Overall, it was a great tournament, and big shout out to NinoPokeBros for hosting such a great event. It went really smoothly. There were a couple rounds that kind of took a little bit longer than others because we were, like, waiting on 1 or 2 matches. But overall, they communicated very well. It went very smooth, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And like I said, if you want to check out a detailed breakdown of my team, go ahead and check out my other video. You can get the rental code over there. Kind of test it out for yourself and see how you like it. Let me know your thoughts about this tournament. If you entered it, if you want to enter it, if you want more details about it, I can definitely give you some more details on the next event that I see. But like I said, I'm very excited for VGC, the future of VGC. There's a lot of Pokemon that are very popular in this format. As you can see, Goldango, Dragon is, like, on every single team. So it's interesting to kind of find counters to those things and kind of build a team that's going to work against everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe and leave a like down below. Also, leave me a comment. Let me know how you're doing today. Let me know what you're excited about for VGC. If you know what VGC is, if you've played VGC, all that kind of stuff. Just let me know in the comments how you're doing. I'm looking forward to doing more team building, competing in more tournaments, and just doing my best with VGC. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one.